Alrighty, here we go. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. My name is Travis Neville. I wrote this book. It's called The Jossman Method. You can get it on Amazon or Audible. You can get it from my publisher, which is Atlantic. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it at several bookstores in Petoskey, Michigan. It's all over the place. This actually was up there and walked in, and there it was. Pretty cool. Anyway, this is the Travis Neville Podcast. It's Monday morning. It's 4 a.m. I'm back on schedule here. I probably for the summer will be a little bit off on schedule. I'll try to get as many of these out as I can. But I'm really enjoying my time working. I'm working physically outdoors and really getting a lot out of it. And I intend to do that until the weather becomes an issue. So, by way of quality control, I often watch my own fucking podcast. I know that seems a little egomaniac-y, but I have a little of that in me. So, guilty's charged. So I was watching the last one, the one on hindsight. And I made a comment in there that, I married the wrong woman and I knew that she wasn't right for me before we even got engaged. I knew that. And I just was like, all right, so my gut was telling me to not to do a thing, and I did it. So what the fuck is a gut instinct all about? Maybe I need to dig in on this, you know what I mean? So that's what I did. Started doing some research, and this is kind of what I came up with. I started with, we've talked often about, how most of your consciousness is almost like a negotiation between your mind and your body. I say that a lot. Your mind, I would say, is your mental self, your logical, your cognitive adult within you that you've developed over years and social expectations, and then your heart is your, well, why not? This is what I want. Like your emotional self, right? Like not necessarily whining all the time, but your feelings, right? That's all. It's always the negotiation between those two, and a very big fat key to happiness is making sure that they can jive. And there's no blaming. There's no one's way more powerful than the other. They're kind of balanced, and they're able to both do their own thing in harmony. But as I dug into this gut instinct business, what I came up with is there's a third factor. There's a turd in the punch bowl, if you will, and it's your body. Okay, think about this. Wind humankind back tens of thousands of years where we just didn't have the frontal lobe development that we have now. We didn't have the quote unquote intelligence, the reason, the ability to, we didn't have any need to do that when you're living in caves and shit like that, or it's a far less academic world back then. So without, for lack of a better term, the distraction of your mind, you're left only with sort of what you would call in lesser beings instinct. Your instincts. You think about any other animal, right? Think about your cat or your dog. When they sense danger, they react to it. Think about a deer walking in the forest. When it sees you, it's like, I don't know what that is. I better get the fuck out of here. It's instinct. It's something that's down deep in your DNA, truly. I wish I could give you a much more fine point on that, but that's really what we're talking about here. And let's make a distinction between fear, anxiety, all those things that we know we've already talked about and already dealt with, and the gut instinct. Okay, we've got to separate them. I would tell you that your gut, it only comes. You can only really see it if there is no emotional sort of fogginess between you and it, right? What I'm saying is, like, you're walking down, I don't know. I used to tell this story. I used to tell my kids in class about how I was painting this house when I was in college, and I'm in this basement. And the house was maybe 2 years old. It was brand new. It was beautiful. This big, like, kind of McMansion subdivision house in Clarkston. And there was this room in the basement, and it wasn't full of cobwebs. It was early. It was morning time. It was daytime. Sun's beaming in. It wasn't thunderclap. Like, there was nothing about the scene that would put you in a scary mood. But walking into this one room in the basement, I don't know. I just had an unbelievable sense of dread that I had to get the fuck out of there. Had to get out. Had to get out. And I can finish that story later on if you want to hear about it. Anybody who was ever a student of mine, they know how that story goes. But my point is that your body can sometimes sense things, and your brain is like, what? And you need to listen. Okay? When your body tells you a thing, you got to pay attention to it. And again, it's only clear and it's only useful to you if there are no emotions in the way of it. Does that make sense? So that's the difference between fear and anxiety and all that shit and a gut instinct. Like, you can just be afraid. That's not a gut instinct. You're just afraid. That's totally different. You see the difference? Like, that's kind of the key. So I got a good definition here of the gut instinct. It's your gut feelings are a combination of two things. It's your gut bacteria, okay, communicating directly to your brain via chemical messengers in the blood that are called cytokines, and they call it cytokine transmission. So things in your blood that come from your digestive system that find their way to your brain and send certain signals. Now, would that serve a purpose evolutionarily? Back in the caveman days, probably. You could, I don't know. Let's say that the animal that you've killed and ate spend most of its life scared to fucking death because there were saber-toothed tigers around. Your body would pick that up and go, oh, this animal's in fear all the time. Maybe there's something around here to be afraid of. You know what I mean? And that's why they talk about, when I ate something, I didn't feel good. People say that a lot. Oh, I used to have this bad habit. The only time I'd ever eat fast food is when I was heading up north. And it used to be that was a lot more rare than it is now. But I would stop and get some McDonald's cheeseburgers and put them down. But they didn't make me feel good. But that word feel, let's dig into that, right? And again, we're talking about these cytokines in your blood that come from your digestive system. So you eat something bad and you don't feel good. Now, let's define the feel part, right? So you physically, your gut hurts. Like, you don't feel good that way. But nobody ever has a rotten gut and they're laughing hysterically and loving life and they couldn't be more upbeat. No, how do you feel when your gut hurts? You're sad, you're down, you're unhappy. So you see the connection? That's the simplest way I can define it to you, that your body can control your mind in some ways. You eat the wrong shit, it's going to fuck with you up here. It is. Like, that would always happen to me. I'd eat that McDonald's. Like, oh, man, it's going to be so great. And, I'd eat it because I never ate it. I'd eat it like every 2 months. You know what I mean? Really rare. And then, I'd get to my cabin, I'd be unpacking, and I'd be like, God, I don't feel good emotionally. Like, why am I sad? I shouldn't be sad. I'm up north. I realized it was the shitty food. And who knows what's in that crap. So you don't eat it. So you see that right there. You see that connection, that your guts can send signals to your brain that will fuck with your mood. Okay? So that's really, really basic shit. And the second thing that's what defines a gut instinct is these gut neurons. And when I keep saying gut, I basically mean your internal organs. Everything that's here in your torso, right? Your heart, your lungs, your stomach, your liver, all that crap. So now you've got you eat something, it gets in your blood, and it goes to your brain, so you pick that up. Second piece would be, there's a big fat nerve bundle that goes from your organs to your brain and back. Obviously, there needs to be a highway in there so that your brain can tell your heart when to beat, can tell your digestive system to work correctly. Like, all of that's kind of working in harmony all the time, right? Well, it isn't just your brain sending signals down. It's also, your guts sending signals up, okay? And that's through the vagus nerve, all right? And that's a thing that, should be paid attention to. And I think that's probably a bigger piece of what you get, because when you're talking about a gut instinct, it's usually a person or a situation, right? You walk into a room, you're like, oh man, something ain't right here. Like, I was went and visited my buddy in Charleston, South Carolina a few weeks ago. Fuck, that might have been a couple months ago now that I think about it. But I stopped in this town called Princeton, West Virginia. It was a little more than halfway down. I'm like, okay, I've never been to West Virginia. I'll check it out. So I go to Princeton, West Virginia. I'm like, I'm going to check out some dive bars. This should be cool. I love people watching. Like, to me, that'd be really fun to sit in a bar and what do people in West Virginia do? You know what I mean? I walk into this place and there's me, there's the bartender, I think 2 bartenders, they're like a bar back, and a couple of random people, and then there were these biker guys, like motorcycle riders. And you guys know I ride, so that's not a thing that's intimidating to me. That's not whatever. The guys ride, no problem. But I got the worst fucking heebie-jeebies off of these dudes. I'm like, I shouldn't be here. I gotta drink this drink fast, pay with cash, and get out of here, like now. And as I was getting up, so that's what I did, because I'm going to tell you later, today, that how I learned to trust my gut. But all right, I got to get out of here. And as I'm getting up and leaving, one of them turned around and I saw on his back the top rocker, what the motorcycle club they belonged to. And they were, I'm not going to tell you who they are, but they were really bad people. Like I've done research about these things to know that, all right, holy fuck, I just crossed paths with some really, really bad people. And I didn't know that until I left. And I'm telling you that really fucked up people, there's something that they give off and you can pick up on it. It's a real thing. It's almost tangible. You know what I mean? And that's the gut instinct that most people are talking about. And what that is that connection. Your guts, there's a connection between that and your mind, and it's a nerve thing. You're picking up on that through pheromones or through, I don't even know. I wish I could give you some scientific definition of what that is and how it works, but it's a real thing. It really works. Don't ignore it. If you're getting a weird ass feeling from somebody and you're not drunk, you're not sad, you're not angry, you don't have any underlying emotions, you are right. you are right more than you're wrong. So how does this help you to know this stuff? I mean, I started digging in again on the body part. How important is the body? And when I get kind of in a jam when I'm doing research like this, a lot of times I'll go back to Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Abraham Maslow was a psychologist, died in 1970, but he wrote a book called Motivation and Personality. It was really famous. He made this hierarchy of needs, which I printed a copy here, and you guys can just Google it, but it's basically what it looks like. And if you look at the bottom there, the most important needs that you have are physiological, things that flat out keep you alive. Second step up is stuff that keeps you safe, like your home, your shelter, your financial stuff. And then you start getting into more of the emotional stuff, right? And then at the top, self-actualization, that's really where you want to be. And so I was thinking about this, and like, how important is the body in here, right? You know what I mean? Like, where is the needs of your body on Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs as opposed to the needs of your heart and your mind? And it's pretty fucking simple. Like, where in here is the needs of your body? The very first one. Like, that's how important your body is, right? Your body is not a thing to be ignored. If it's telling you a thing, you better fucking listen, because all these other things are going to suffer without this. This is on the bottom because it's the base. Everything comes from there. You can't concern yourself with any of these until this is right. Does that make sense? So again, that's how important your body is. So let me give you another scenario. Some things that you could feel really guilty about, and they're physical. So how about this? So when you look at the bottom there, it says, here are your physiological needs: breathing, food, water, sleep, homeostasis, excretion, which is shitting and pissing, and then sex. Sex is a part of your base. Like, you have to have some outlet for that. You have to. So here's how that fleshes out in your life. Everyone's heard the phrase walk of shame, right? And that's very simply, you went out presumably the night before, probably drinking, and got down with somebody, did the nasty, made the beast with two backs, and you're getting up the next morning walking out. And for girls, they're carrying their shoes in their hand and they're walking out, and everybody can see them the next morning. They're all disheveled, wearing last night's clothes. Or, for guys, I guess it's the same thing. But know this. Look how important sex is. Like, it's right there. Like, there it is, right? So, you can't let your mind and your heart guilt the shit out of you for doing a thing that your body needs to have. It needs to have it. You know what I mean? That's a common scenario where, again, like I told you, your heart and your mind, and now you got the turd in the punch bowl, which is your body. Your mind likes to believe that it runs the show completely, and I don't need anybody's help, and I'm really smart, and I can do whatever. No, your body's pretty important. It's pretty important. It's gonna make you do shit that it will override your mind in lots of ways. And let's talk about drinking. I got a chapter in the book called "Drink Moderately." Why do you drink? Well, most people know it loosens inhibitions. It's going to make you, really what it's going to do, it's going to take your heart, your mind, and your body, right? It's going to take your mind and slowly delete it from that picture. So now it's just your emotions and your body, right? So that's all as you delete your mind. It's like if you were a family. The more you drink, the more you are muting your parents. And it's just the kids having fun. It's just your body and your mind, right? Going out and kicking some ass and indulging and doing things that your mind would normally not let your body or your emotions do. You're going to start to have emotional feelings that you wouldn't have if you weren't drunk. You're going to start to do shit with your body that you probably wouldn't do if you weren't drunk, or on whatever your drug of choice is. Yeah, and to be ashamed of that is inappropriate. Now, granted, like I said, the day after you drink, the physical effects of the hangover are going to intensify some anxiety and depression, that sort of thing. But you can't look back on those decisions and go, man, that was ridiculous. I should have never done that. Well, your body obviously wanted to. You know what I mean? And it's not like I'm becoming a proponent of going out and doing crazy shit all the time. I just mean that if you didn't do it, you probably didn't. Your body wasn't needing it. You don't feel guilty for sleeping. I mean, I don't. Do you feel guilty for eating enough food, drinking enough water, for breathing, for reproducing? All these things that are important that to keep humans alive. They're all just as important. So, again, I wanted to throw that piece out there because that also struck me as I was doing this research. So we talked about Maslow, talked about that. Okay, so what are some things that your gut can tell you? Well, I'll tell you this story. I had my life changed more than once, by ignoring my gut. I'm 19, I'm sleeping in the basement, the house I lived in when I was that age. We didn't have air conditioning, and it was hot out, so I was sleeping in the basement. And I knew that night, like, it had finally cooled off a little bit, and I should have gone upstairs and slept in my room. But I just fuck it, all my shit's down here. I'm just going to sleep downstairs again. And had I done that, had I gone up and slept in my own room, it would have changed some timing issues, and I would have gotten my car at a different time the next morning. Anyway, long story short, I got in a car accident, totaled my car. I was mostly okay. I got a little scar, but it changed my whole life because I was going to college. I was going to take classes. And as a result of not having a car, I had to drop all my classes. And I ended up having to go out and get a new car and get a different job. And it completely changed my life, ended up for the better. And I'm not going to tell you that was meant to be. You know how I feel about that. I turned it into a good situation, and I ended up going to Northern and changing my whole life, and everything was fine. But my gut that night was, man, you should not be staying down here tonight. You should be going upstairs and sleeping. It was really strong, and I ignored it. And a lot of shit changed as a result. And I can tell you that I can remember once being at school, a couple of years later, I got in my truck to drive home. I was going to come home for homecoming. And I got about a half hour out of town, and I couldn't ignore it. My gut feeling that I shouldn't be taking this trip was so strong, I turned around and went back. And I was thinking specifically about how I ignored it that one night, and I ended up getting that car accident, so I'm going back. So I've had that gut feeling tell me that shit, and I told you that story about being in that basement. It'll fuck with you. But your gut feeling also, it isn't just always bad stuff. Matter of fact, usually it's not. That gut instinct can tell you that you're in good company. You're with good people. It can tell you that I trust this guy, or this girl seems like somebody that I would like to spend some time with. It can be very good. It can be the thing that makes you feel great about a situation. Like, I don't know, everybody's heard the story about the guy. I got a good friend, had 2 job offers. One was a layup. It was, a lot of money. It was at an established place where he would have had no issues. It would have been easy for him. He wouldn't have had it. It would have been easy. And he went to this other place where they really needed him. Like, he was going to be able to make a big ass impact. It was less money. It was going to be a lot more trouble, a lot more difficult. And he couldn't decide. He couldn't decide between the two. So he's sitting on this train, and this old lady said, "What's wrong with you, son?" And he said, "I'm trying to decide between these jobs." And she walked up to him and said, "You go where they need you the most." And that's what he decided to do. And he's been happy with his decision, presumably. His gut was telling, that seems easy. You take the one with the money and the low, no hurdles, right? It's going to be easier. But he didn't want to do it. He didn't want, something about him was telling him it was the wrong move. And clearly he was right. So it can tell you that. It can tell you when you're making the right move. Lots of times you'll be able to anticipate if somebody is manipulating you. You might not have police training, right? Like that's when somebody looks up and to the left. I can't remember what it is, but that means that they're lying because they're accessing a certain part of their brain that's creative rather than memory, right? You might not have that training, but you have been alive and been around enough people in your life where if you see somebody do a certain thing, a certain progression of mannerisms, where you've seen that before, and in your experience when you saw that, the outcome was negative. So you'll know, oh, that fucker's lying to me. I just know it. I know it. Like, I was dating a girl a few months ago, and everything she said to me, I'm like, you're lying. Like, you are fucking lying to me. I couldn't escape it. And I didn't even want to know if I was right. Like, I didn't try to figure out if I was right. I was so strongly, I was sure of myself that, yeah, she's lying. and she was. I found out later on that people around her told me, "Oh my God, dude, you're so lucky to not be around us," blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I was right. I don't know why I'm so dry today. I had a couple of beers last night, but not a whole lot. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that a gut instinct for you is going to do for you. In order to access it, of course, like I told you, you've got to kind of clear the road of any, emotions, feelings, previously held notions. You've got to turn your brain off. Really, you've got to just feel a thing. It's like how they talk about how when people lose their eyesight, all of a sudden their hearing becomes unbelievable. It's because I think it's because you're not distracted by what you're seeing. You can just really focus on what you're listening to. It's the same thing. I was listening to, I've been driving so much lately. I picked up To Kill a Mockingbird again and was listening to it on Audible. And Atticus says to his daughter, he says, if you really want to see if somebody's telling the truth, he's like, listen to them instead of watching them. And what he means is tone of voice, delete facial expressions, delete mannerisms, just listen to their voice. Are they frantic? Are they calm? You know what I mean? Like, you can really tell if somebody's for real or not. You know what I mean? You really can, which I think is super, super helpful. So that's the deal. Yeah, you gotta. There is a part of your body that can, if you listen to it, give you unvarnished, unadulterated, clear, honest, logical facts, like information, data, like real shit with no emotional sauce on it. That's there. If you can harness that, if you can really learn how to get your teeth into that, it can only make you better. And again, it's going to take a significant level of mind control. You're going to have to control your own mind, right? You're going to have to turn off the noise and listen to what your gut's telling you. So, next time you are in a position where you've got to make a very difficult decision, or you're meeting a new person, or you are walking into a room full of people, or wherever you are, any kind of new situation, you've got to learn how to, okay, I know that this is new and so it's unfamiliar and people are generally afraid of the unknown. I've got to subtract all that out and really just listen with my body to what's going on. What's my gut telling me about the situation? Is it good? Is it bad? How am I feeling about it? How am I feeling inside my body? Again, if you can harness that, it's going to help you. Also remember, what you're putting in your body, what you're eating, is going to change that. If you want to delete anxiety and fear and things like that, getting the workouts, making sure that you're getting all of your feel-good hormones running through you, that's going to help you. Don't feel guilty about your physical desires, your physical needs. Just try to manage them appropriately. You know, sex is no different than food, than eating. You've learned to do that in a delicate manner, right? Like you don't go over to Old Country Buffet and just start eating shit with your hands right out of the buffet. You take your time, you do it right, you do it in a way that's not going to upset anybody. You should handle all of your physical needs that same way, and you'll be just fine. Remember that your heart is your emotions, your mind is your mental and logical capacity, and your body, again, definitely has some impact in there. It's like the person in the back screaming up and yelling every once in a while. Eventually, you're going to have to pay attention to them. You don't get to really negotiate with them. You don't get to say, well, no, we're not going to listen this time. You have to listen. Okay, that's just how it is. Have any questions, hit me up on Facebook. I'm not hard to find out there. Again, my name is Travis Neville. I wrote this book called The Jossman Method. You can get it anywhere fine books are sold, and some places where shitty ones are sold as well. I will be out of town again this weekend. I'm heading up north with my buddies for our annual guys trip. Looking forward to it. Should be a great time. I'm gonna try to drink moderately. We'll see how that goes, and it should be a good time. I hope that today's show in some way helped you to get your shit together. I'm Travis Neville. Have a great week.